morning, everyone. This is your host, Apple, the Dabble a Day here. As always, we're going to get started with our 5-minute meditation. My life continues to get better. I let go of all negative feelings holding me back. I am getting better, but I'm good enough already. I refuse to settle for less than what I deserve. I am liberating myself from fear, judgment, and doubt. My thoughts are filled with positivity. I release myself from the burden of an unhappy relationship. I release toxicity and become a magnet for positivity. I show myself the respect and kindness I deserve in a relationship. I am empowered to choose loving relationships with people who help me become the best version of myself. I refuse to allow toxic people access to me. I forgive the versions of myself that were willing to accept toxicity. I am worthy of a peaceful relationship. I know that true love will bring peace and positivity to my very soul. I am capable of trusting again. I deserve to be with someone who empowers and uplifts me. I intentionally distance myself from toxicity and negativity. I love myself too much to stay with someone who hurts me. I create a circle of love around me, which toxicity is not allowed to enter. I leave past hurts behind and focus on my growth and happiness. I am thankful for the opportunity to leave behind a toxic situation. I have faith in my strength. I free myself from all the burdens. I refuse to let a toxic person define my worth. I am compassionate with my heart while it recovers from being hurt. I know that my growth helps me feel good about myself. I think even the darkest times, for I must feel the difference to recognize the light. I deserve to be treated kindly. I continue to be the most positive version of myself I can be, even if I'm around someone who is being toxic. I refuse to let toxic behaviors of others dampen my self-esteem. I heal from past relationships so my future partner can meet the best version of myself. I open myself to the transformative power of forgiveness. I allow myself all the time and space I need to recover and move on from difficult experiences. I release the need to please toxic people. I deserve to be with someone who will never cause me pain. I always speak up for myself. I release any pain from my past relationship and look forward to a better tomorrow. I am prioritizing what I need in a relationship. I accept everyone who is on my side and step around everyone who is in my way. I am worthy of a healthy, loving relationship. I am allowed to love a toxic person, yet refuse to have a relationship with them. I deserve someone who will take care of and protect my mind, heart, body, and soul. I deserve someone who never makes me doubt how they feel. My heart is healing. I give myself permission to ask for help when I need it. I am worthy of being loved for who I am. I love the sound of my feet walking away from whatever no longer suits me. I trust that my next relationship will be the one I have dreamt of. I accept that sometimes I won't get an apology, and I'm okay with that. And with that has been the 5-minute meditation. Let's go ahead and get right into our episode topic. Alright, hello everyone. We are getting into episode 219, and it is titled Whether or Not They'll Make It Through the Storm. So in the meditation today, I chose the topic overcoming toxic relationships. And even though it centers more around actual romantic relationships, my focus is to talk about relationships in totality, relationships that you have with anybody, right? So whether that's with a romantic partner, platonic, familial, any type of relationship, right? And there's a topic question that I have is, how do I discern who is meant to weather life's storms with me and who isn't? I'm going to break this down, and then I'll break it down even more. So first, part of that is looking at how family interacts with you, right? And in this case, I mean, who do you really include when you're going through a life storm? So in your family, is there a single person that you go to talk about things that are going on? Is there multiple people? Do you tell your entire family? And family, I'm meaning immediate family here, so parents, guardians, or siblings, kind of thing. Do you tell all of them? Do you tell a select few? Do you tell select information to a select few? How do you personally discern who you tell that information to? I know with families, and I think a really good example of this is Thanksgiving, right? So Thanksgiving is when in my family, everybody, they get together and they talk, but you basically hear life updates from everybody at Thanksgiving, because that's the one time we all get together and you can talk beyond the aspect of just calling them on the phone. But calling on the phone, texting them, and stuff like that is not necessarily something that everybody's gonna do. So we definitely have to look at it as what information is being shared, how much information is being shared, is it with or without your consent, the information that is being shared, kind of thing, right? And I think an important part is with family, especially if you have family that overshares, kind of thing, with information that you talk to them about. I know some people, they'll honor that, hey, don't share this information with anybody, I'm not ready to share yet, kind of thing. But sometimes that doesn't happen. They're like, well, I was going to tell this person, kind of thing. And I'll get into that when it comes to friends as well. But I think it's very interesting when that's the case. And I would say, especially in regards to family more so than friends or partners, which I'll talk about next, when you tell someone information, right, not only are you being vulnerable, and that's a strong and very important part for you and your own growth, but you also have to remember that you lose control of how that information gets shared outside of you. You've done your part of telephone, right? Then now it's up to them to do their part of telephone, how they see fit, how they want to, right? So you lose that control of that information. And I know, for some people, losing control of certain things, can give them anxiety. So when it comes to family, especially if you have, like what I said, if you have a family that overshares or they, pass around information or whatever, trying to get to the bottom of things, it's like, well, how am I supposed to look at talking to them about stuff? Well, that is discernment. That is up for you to decide what is worth telling them, and you don't care if they share it or not. And I'll go into another aspect where this affects things greatly. Friendships, right? So with friendships, you'll see a lot more like our drama kind of thing, I would say. But it's not like consolidated to a specific time period. It's not consolidated to, oh, we're gonna do this during Thanksgiving and we're gonna talk about this, everything, right? Friendships, you'll see that type of behavior where you have to practice that discernment year round, essentially. They don't have like a time limit on when they're gonna share or overshare kind of thing. So with friendships, you definitely have to look at, is what I'm sharing with this friend, am I okay with this being shared with other people in my friend group? I'm okay with this being shared with their friends, or in some cases, am I okay with this being shared with their partner? Again, some friends, they adhere to, I'm not going to share this information with anybody, no matter what, as with some family members, but some people do. And if you know, or sometimes if you don't know, are you okay with whatever's being shared? And I think an approach to this is a little bit antsy, but it can, appear like paranoid. But it's just one of those things in terms of discernment that I practice, right? The information that I share to anyone, I want to make sure that I'm okay with it being shared. And I'll talk about more how this works into like goals and stuff for the new year after I discuss the partners aspect. But in regards to friends, sometimes, you'll have like a friend group chat and you'll say something, or you say something to an individual friend and it ends up in a group chat, right? And I know that can make you feel some type of way. I would feel some type of way if that happened, for sure. But it's also one of those things where you're losing control of who shares that information. And in some cases, this can scare us and lead to anxiety and cause us to not be as vulnerable as we would like to be to certain people. And I would say in that regard that there are varying levels to friendship. And I would say that there are certain things that I share with certain friends. There are certain things I don't share with certain friends. Like, you may call everybody your best friend, but are they all really your best friend kind of thing? How do they act when you're not in the room, when you're not in the group chat, when you're not in the vicinity kind of thing, That is a lot more telling than how they act in your face. The same way with family, kind of thing, right? And I know there are certain people like that will share information to like their partners, right? Is it something that's asked to be shared? Are you asking the partner just to have something to tell the partner, to gossip to your partner? Or are you asking for actual insight? I would say in most cases, if someone's asking you to share something, you want to, keep your word and not share it, But I do find that in some ways, certain times, it does help if you have a partner that has like high emotional intelligence, high discernment, and critical thinking skills. I think in those cases that it can be beneficial to share parts of the information with them to see what the response would be, how they would react, what advice they would give, but not put like your friend on the spotlight kind of thing, right? So like, say for example, Sally's boyfriend, Derek or whatever, right, is like coming home way late, and she suspects that he is cheating on her, right? and Sally tells you, hey, I suspect my boyfriend is cheating on me. This is what he's doing. And he says it's work. He works like a regular office 9 to 5 job. So it just started like a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago. And I don't know what to do. Is he actually just working late, or is there something else? So when we involve the cheating aspect, I'll make it known that cheating is never okay. I disagree with cheating in every single aspect, because even if someone's like doing wrong, whatever kind of thing, I don't think it's ever right to leave people with such psychological trauma that they feel like they're not good enough. Because that won't just affect their relationship, that will affect literally every other aspect of them, everything, how they interact with people. That's too detrimental of a thing to do to somebody, in my opinion. So let's say in this example, Sally tells you, and you're like, well, I don't know, like you haven't been cheated on, or you feel like, well, you should just leave kind of thing, and like that should be the end of it if you don't know, or like you advise, go through their phone or whatever the advice that you give as a friend to Sally. But let's say on the other hand, you say, hey, you know what, actually, I'm gonna think on that, and then I'll get back to you, right? And let's say you ask your boyfriend or your husband, hey, someone that I know is having a hard time with their significant other. Their significant other has recently, the last 1-2 months, started working late at their office job, 9 to 5. When I text about them coming home, they're not really responding, etc., etc., etc. What should I do? And your boyfriend's like, well, they should have a conversation. They should communicate. It's like, okay, that's good advice, you get the other perspective. So I think with most decision making, you want to have an emotional understanding, but you also want to have a logical understanding and approach how to solve it, right? I lean more on understanding the emotional, but approaching with the logical, right? My own partner is the same. So if you take that time to reflect on the information that you've gotten from your partner and your own ideas, it's like, well, I know Derek's characteristics are like X, Y, Z. He doesn't seem like he'd be somebody to do that, but cheating is not something that you ever really seem like someone's gonna do it necessarily. It's just something that somebody does. In those cases, that's when it gets really scary. But usually we don't look at the character of the person to say that they are a cheater. We look at the behaviors they do leading up to the cheating. That kind of tells us more or less if they're cheating, about to cheat. It's in their behavior kind of thing, less so in their character. But I think in those cases that it is helpful to get other insight from, quote unquote, your counsel. This doesn't have to be partner, this could be, friends as well. But again, you have to have people in your circle that are highly discerning. I wouldn't take that to a group of friends that, reacts emotionally to most of everything. And it's just like, oh, we'll just break up with him. Like, you don't need him, da 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 da. Without understanding and communicating to that person. I would say that getting advice from other people on a situation, especially a sensitive one that someone's entrusted to you, main thing is you're not letting anybody know the identity of the person. But also on top of that, you're also making sure that who you're sharing the information with, like, that is the type of person that can actually give you worthwhile advice, whether that you're going to pass it on to that person, or you're going to, take it in with the advice that you were going to give and then share it. But that is a big aspect of, in terms of like sharing information that I feel like is important to give people the privacy that they ask for, especially within friendships or even in partnerships, which I'm going to get into next, with your partner, right? How do you determine whether or not you're going to be able to weather the storm with them? And it's different for everybody because you have different personalities and different relationships. It's going to depend really. This all is going to buckle down to communication style for the most part, right? And if it's the case that your communication style is more volatile or toxic, then, if that's how it is on a regular, when things get worse, it might get worse, kind of thing. So it's definitely something you have to look into and evaluate for your own relationship to discern whether you're going to be weathering life storms, whether it's a relationship or even if it is a marriage. Like, you have to discern. Marriage, you're together and you, for the most part, want to stay married, right? So in those cases, you want to make sure that the choices that you're making for the betterment of not just you, but for your partner and for your relationship. I think there's some studies that also prove this, or I've talked about it at least. But I think that when you prioritize the happiness and the safety of your relationship and of your partner, I find that those relationships tend to do a lot better because you're not acting, quote unquote, selfishly. And I don't want to make it seem like being selfish in your relationship at all is like a bad thing, because it's definitely not. It's just, same thing with a balanced diet. There's a time and a place for it, for sure. So now that you've thought about analyzing those aspects, family, friends, and partners, right? And how you determine whether they're meant to weather life storms with you or not, right? Think about this. How am I? Like, how is your character? How are your behaviors? How am I as a person when weathering life storms? And how do I act towards these different groups of people? So as a person that's like in crisis or that is stressed, I typically go and I isolate. I just work on what needs to be worked on until I'm not stressed anymore, solving the problem essentially. So how is that going to come off to my family? How is that going to come off to my friends? How is that going to come off to my partner? It will appear to different people as different things. And then you're like, oh, well, they're not talking to me anymore. It could be like that. Or your friends be like, well, they're not talking to me anymore. They don't want to be friends with me anymore. Probably be like, oh, well, they don't like me anymore. And it really has nothing to do without you liking them or not liking them. This is why I say the communication aspect is the most important part of discerning who is going to be able to weather the storm or not. Because people will take things differently. If my family knows that I'm typically a quiet person, I isolate and I solve my problems that way, then they might not be as worried. If my friends know that, they might not be as worried. If my partner knows that, they might not be as worried. But it also comes back to how much information that you share with them. And this is coming back to the point I was saying about goal setting. So for me personally, I do vision boards. I've been doing vision boards for the past 3 years now. And this most recent year, I did a couples board. So I have goals that I want for myself, and then I also have goals that me and my partner want to complete together. This is, as I said, I've been with my partner for past 3 years now, but this is the first year we've done an actual couple board, visualizing where we want to be, kind of thing. And for me personally, with my vision board, unless I'm at a like vision board party kind of thing, and I think I did a vision board party last year. I think I did a vision board party last year, and then I did one this year. I don't share all of my vision board stuff with everybody. I know with vision board parties, usually like when you'll see them, they're very, very like very succinct, very like small, close knit, right? And I think that is very, very important and very, very intentional, right? You don't necessarily want everybody knowing all your business. And that can apply to family, that can apply to friends, that can even apply to a partner. That is up for you to discern. You have to learn how to discern that for yourself, right? But I found that when you don't share all the details of everything, all your goals and stuff like that, it gives you more opportunity to be instead of having people to expect things from you. Because when you share, like, let's say, for example, if I share, like, oh, I'm going to release 5 books this year. Well, people are now going to be expecting you to release 5 books, and then they're going to have something to say when you don't release the 5 books, right? Or let's say, for example, let's say you release 6 books, then it's like, oh, but you didn't tell me about this last book you were going to release, or I feel like the first 5 were better, It opens you up to so much criticism. And I know, like, with social media especially, we talk about when we engage with social media, we want to make sure that we are engaging in a healthy way on social media. That means we are utilizing it in moderation, right? Part of that is, we may not be sharing any and everything with everybody, and that's okay, right? That's very important. So, like, there are certain things like that I'll share with my family in terms of my goals. So when we were at Christmas dinner, personally, I'm asked, like, what are your top 3 goals, kind of thing, or what are 3 goals you have for this year? Top 3 goals, I may not want to share because I really want them to happen. But in the essence of family, if there are people that, will support those goals happening, I'll share the top 3 goals. I'll share 3 goals that I'm willing to allow people to help me on, that you don't feel like there would be any type of sabotage or anything like that. Again, practice discernment in your own circles with friends. As I mentioned, vision board parties. A lot of times it depends. So I've seen vision board parties and I've seen prayer board parties. Very similar things. One focuses more on manifestation, one focuses more on prayer. I kind of do prayer for my visions. Make sure that those visions that I'm asking for are aligned to what is in God's purpose for me. I wouldn't be putting it on the vision if that was for me, if it wasn't the case that I felt like God was putting me in that path. It's more so, this is what He has envisioned for me, and I'm making sure that I have a constant reminder that these are where my goals are. So, again, there's some distinction in them. You can choose whether you want to, if you want to do either. If you haven't made a vision board or a prayer board for this year, I would highly encourage you to. I'm doing a bunch of series on my Instagram, basically catered to that, to encourage people to have vision, plan for themselves, big or small. But again, sharing your goals or sharing your dreams with people, you have to discern that. So family, family may be willing to support you. Say, for example, you want to get a house or you want to get a new apartment or whatever. Rent, lease, or buy, right? Maybe they are willing to give you a down payment on that house or that property, whatever the case may be. it's worthwhile to share it for them because they're wanting to help you, they're wanting to aid you in to completing that goal, and that's cool. For your friends, it could be the same thing. I would definitely say that with vision board or prayer parties with friends, I think it's very, very important. I think it's very, very important to make sure that you know who you're going to be around when you're creating these boards. It sometimes may be the case that you can do a very generic board. Say, for example, like you just want to like travel and stuff for the most part. And that's something that like you can, for the most part, put on a board. And if you don't tell people like when you're going kind of thing, it gives more ambiguity to the goals that are going to be completed. Or let's say, for example, as well, that you have on your board, you want to learn. That's it. You want to learn. So you put like a graduation cap, or you put just a picture of somebody taking notes or in a notebook or whatever. It's like there's no like limit on what you can learn, and there's no pressure on something that you too can learn, because you learn something every day. I would hope that you learn something every day. So it's really in your best interest to like, if you're doing stuff in that way, if you don't know who's going to be around, then you add some ambiguity to your goals. If it's the case that you know who the people are, you trust them, it's completely fine if you just, make your vision board how you want it to be. But definitely, for me, I don't share my vision board with many people. I'll share it like the next year. That's when the time expires on certain things. But sometimes I won't. It just depends on what I accomplish that year, and how I want things to look for myself moving forward. If it's something that like, if I didn't complete any of my goals for the year, it's like, and I want to basically reuse the board, kind of thing. And it's like, maybe I won't share. Or maybe it's just that you frame it as that, hey, I want to do these things again. I found they were really good goals for myself, because I think from my 2024 to my 2025 board, there were some goals that I didn't accomplish, and there were some goals that I did accomplish, and I kind of rotated the ones that I didn't accomplish out, or when I evaluated the ones that I didn't accomplish, some of them weren't as conducive to the pathway that I was going for myself. So I switched them out with things that were more likely to help me like complete my goals and like see like the vision. But yeah, I think that is a very important part. But this is going into like how am I, like, what are my behaviors towards these people, family, friends, partners, weathering life storms, right? So I think a really big aspect we forget to talk about is, how are you to yourself when you're weathering life storms? So if I share that I'm more of like, I isolate and just solve my problem by myself. Am I kind to myself in that time? Am I hard on myself during that time? That is very, very important, because how you are and how you act towards yourself is almost always going to be reflected in how you interact with other people. If you're mean to yourself, you may be mean to other people. If you're kind to yourself, you'll maybe be kind to other people. And it can be being kind to them because you're going through something hard, or it may be that you're kind to them when they're going through something hard. It just depends on how you are. And I think it's important to look at both those aspects: how you act toward yourself when you're going through something tough, to your friends, your family, your partner, and then how do you act towards them when they're going through stuff as well. It's extremely, extremely important. And that's why I said, in regards to the partners thing, it really depends on like, how you communicate, because those two things, I would say, play this extremely crucial part in the fluidity and growth of that relationship. So to myself, I would say it just depends. For the most part, I don't, like I can be cranky about something, and I try to let my emotions, especially if they're negative ones, be associated with just whatever's going on. So for example, if I'm mad that I didn't get like as good of a score as I could have gotten on a test or a quiz or an assignment or whatever, I'll be upset about that assignment. Not upset about necessarily, like, I won't be upset towards like my friends or my partner or my family kind of thing. I'll just be upset like, hey, man, I really wish I could have gotten higher. I'll probably be upset with myself more than I'll be upset with anybody else, to be honest. I think that's really important. And I think the last aspect I want to touch on is when it comes to this discernment, right? When you find out people that are not meant to be in your life. So I think part of this is you have to understand that some people are there in your life permanently, some people are in your life seasonally, right? And if you're practicing this discernment, universe, God, whatever that is for you, however you're going to be practicing that discernment, right? If it gets to the point when you find out that someone isn't supposed to be weathering the storm with you, how are you reacting? Do you ghost them? Do you just stop talking to them slowly? How do you come to terms with that information that they're not supposed to be in your life anymore, that they're not meant to weather the storm with you? How do you come to terms with that? And how does it make you feel moving forward? So, like, say, for example, I've lost some friendships over the years, and some of them definitely hurt more than others. Some of them, they just faded away, and it was whatever, right? But I definitely think the ones that hurt the most, I definitely had to reflect a lot on, because I'm the type of person, like, for me, in certain things, I'll internalize when things go wrong, and that's not necessarily the most healthy thing to do, but it just depends on like what it is. But I always internalize in the sense of like, I'm trying to reflect, I'm trying to see what's going on, what's different. Is there something that I did or did not do or could have done to make this friendship work out better, this relationship work out better? Just depends on what it is, but that's how I internalize things. I don't internalize things to necessarily beat myself up over. I internalize things so that I can take the necessary actions to reflect on my thoughts, my behaviors, my interactions with an individual, and see if there's room for improvement. And if there's room for improvement, is there an availability or is there an opportunity for me to ask them, like where I fell short or what I did wrong or where I could have done better? If there's not, there's not. And that's why I left on further meditation. There will sometimes be times where you will want an apology, but you won't get one. And part of it is that there are sometimes that you will be left with information for you to grow, and it's up for you to figure it out. But I think in certain cases, when you practice that discernment, it gets easier to be able to understand, hey, this is where I fell short, here's where I didn't fall short. Most of the time, if you have, I don't want to necessarily say just mature, but like emotionally mature individuals in your life, they will let you know what happened, what went wrong, and how you can fix it, right? Most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. And it's up for you to take that information and use it to transform your life, yourself, how you interact, your behaviors, your reactions to things. It's up to you. to choose. So this is my little, I guess, spiel on weathering life storms with yourself in regards to others, and to do basically an internal audit on how you interact in these ways, right? So as always, we're going to leave off with three good things. One, I'm not in my regular position where I record. I'm in one of the lounges at my apartment complex, and I'm looking at the front parking lot, I guess you could say, and I've just been watching the sunrise. So I think this has been really good for just waking up. I'm in the massage chair, so I'm about to get a massage after this from the chair, and I think this was a really good time for me to just take in what winter is and just feel winter, because I can feel the coldness through the window right now, but I'm in something nice and cozy, but I'm able to just meditate and essentially just relax and take in the world waking up. So I'll leave those as my three good things for today. As always, you can always catch me on socials at an apple a day. I'm sorry if I keep trailing off. It's because I'm just watching things. Sorry. It's because I'm just watching things and just mellowing. But on apple a day, check out my main All Things Ada, where you see all things Ada, all things me. That's on all socials as well: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever the case may be. As I mentioned before, with the growth of this podcast, as I mentioned before, we are going to be shutting this podcast down and ending it probably May 8th is projected end date, barring no other hiatuses or anything else wrong. Today is the first day of our Monday post, but as I mentioned before, I'm going to be posting podcast episodes Monday and Fridays, so 2 podcasts in a week, basically to finish this podcast up. I would like to, have everything posted by 6 a.m. EST, but that also requires me to record the night before. Sometimes I don't feel like it. I did not feel like it yesterday. I was very, very full on my dinner, and I kind of just passed out. So if that's the case and I don't end up getting it by 6 a.m., I'm going to try and get it up as soon as possible that morning of... I honestly forgot that I was supposed to be doing it on Monday's Day, but it's also Martin Luther King Jr. Day, so happy birthday to Dr. King. Happy heavenly birthday for all he's done and what all he continues to do in his legacy. Very appreciative of that, and I hope that you guys learned something from this, you were able to reflect from this, and just enjoy me yapping with you. Yeah, as always, thank you all so much for listening in, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.